Welcome to today's explainer. Budgeting usually gets a pretty bad rap, right? People tend to think of it as this boring, restrictive financial chore. But honestly, it's actually one of the most exciting, creative roadmaps in all of filmmaking. Today, we're diving into film budgeting basics. Because if you want to spend smarter and film better, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to flip the script here. Budgets aren't cages that lock up your creativity. They're literally the foundation that allows your vision to actually become a reality.
Okay, let's dive into this. Just picture two filmmakers. They have the exact same high-end gear, the exact same brilliant script, and the exact same shooting schedule. Now, filmmaker A wraps up perfectly on time, and the results are absolutely incredible. Meanwhile, filmmaker B, well, they run out of money halfway through production, and the whole project just collapses mid-shoot. So what actually made the difference here? It wasn't raw talent, and it definitely wasn't luck. The critical difference between a massive success and a total disaster is simply planning. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the budgeting mindset, move into the 5 stages of budgeting, then talk about how to spend for the story. After that, we'll cover the contingency safety net, and finally, avoiding common mistakes. Let's jump right into section 1, the budgeting mindset and planning for success. Officially, a film budget is a detailed estimate of all your resources. We're talking time, equipment, locations, crew, and materials. Everything needed to complete a project efficiently. And honestly, it's a huge light bulb moment when you realize a budget isn't just a pile of cash. Obviously, money is a big part of it, but true budgeting is really about managing your time, your gear, and your physical materials. Think of it like a giant puzzle, meticulously plotting out how you're going to combine all these elements before the cameras even roll. That massively reduces those expensive project-killing surprises later on. All right, moving right along to section 2, the 5 stages of budgeting or the production lifecycle. Let's move to and see how this builds, because it's a super common misconception that the budget only really matters when the cameras are actively rolling. Not true at all. Resources actually flow through 5 distinct chronological stages. A project moves from development at week 1, sliding right through pre-production, into the thick of production, carrying over into post-production, and finally landing at distribution. Allocating your resources across this entire lifespan is literally what keeps a project alive. During those early stages, development and pre-production, your expenses start ticking up long before anyone ever yells action. You're funding research and concept art, printing endless script revisions, traveling for location visits, running casting sessions, and doing test shoots. Now, for smaller projects, it's super tempting to just brush these off. But listen, thoroughly preparing and investing right here, it often saves you a massive amount of money once the real filming actually begins. Then comes active filming, the production stage. And wow, this is where your money truly burns the fastest. You've got a full crew needing wages and meals, location fees ticking by the hour, and mountains of camera, audio, and lighting gear all racking up daily rates. Every single shooting day carries a strict, heavy cost. Because of this intense daily burn rate, absolute efficiency is absolutely essential. Any delay on set is a direct drain on your budget. It's wild how fast it goes. But hey, the spending certainly doesn't stop when the director calls a wrap. Finishing costs in post-production cover editing, visual effects, sound design, music, color grading, and graphics. You'd be surprised how many beginners completely forget to reserve money for after filming. And it's tragic, honestly, because without post-production resources, you don't actually have a film. You just have a really expensive hard drive full of raw footage. And remember, even a finished masterpiece needs to find its audience. Audience delivery costs cover things like film festival submissions, cutting trailers, running social media promotion, and buying delivery hard drives. It's the final piece of the puzzle. You absolutely have to budget for that bridge, the bridge that connects your finished art to the viewers who are actually going to sit down and watch it. Which brings us to section 3, spend for the story, and how to prioritize those resources. And this brilliantly illustrates a really cool concept. Imagine a scenario where a production's budget pie shifts heavily. Maybe 40% goes entirely to sound design, 35% to location fees, and 25% to actors. The truth is, your budget shouldn't just be evenly divided across every single department. No way. It should shift radically depending on what your specific narrative actually demands. For one film, crystal clear immersive sound is the driving force. For another, the whole thing rests entirely on securing one specific, visually stunning location. It really all boils down to this secret weapon of professional producers. Spend where it strengthens the story, not where it simply looks impressive. It's all about impact, right? When you allocate your resources, the most important strategy you can use is to ask yourself what will have the biggest impact on the audience. By making every single dollar work hard for the narrative, you end up elevating the entire project.
Okay, let's jump to section 4, the contingency safety net, or why we must expect the unexpected.
Let me tell you, Murphy's Law absolutely thrives on film sets. Batteries suddenly fail. Crystal clear weather turns into a thunderstorm out of nowhere. Or the grip fan just breaks down on the highway. That is exactly why 5 to 10% of the budget is almost always locked away as a contingency fund. This isn't wasted money. It's your survival fund. It provides absolute flexibility when those inevitable surprises pop up.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing how this works in practice with a real-world student documentary budget. They've mapped out $180 total for things like transportation, meals, batteries, locations, and props. But look right there at the bottom. They've smartly carved out $15 entirely for contingency. Identifying your expenses early and protecting that small margin, that is often the exact thing that saves a shoot when a critical memory card corrupts at the last possible minute.
Finally, we arrive at section 5, avoiding common mistakes and the classic beginner pitfalls.
It is so easy to fall into the amateur impulse of blowing your entire budget on flashy camera gear while completely neglecting sound, or forgetting those tiny little expenses like parking fees until it's way too late, leaving no backup budget whatsoever. That is a total recipe for disaster. The professional habit relies on balanced spending, prioritizing story-first decisions where the resources have the absolute greatest impact, and of course, guarding that emergency reserve. That's the true path to an efficient production. So the crucial point is, what will have the biggest impact on your audience? Professional producers know that a budget isn't about limiting creativity at all. It's about solving problems before they get expensive and keeping the focus entirely on telling the best possible story. As fellow creators, if we keep that question as our guiding light, we ensure our resources truly serve our narrative. And hey, speaking of serving the story, you'll definitely want to join me for our next explainer where we dive into one of the most vital creative decisions in all of filmmaking, casting and auditions. Until then, keep planning, keep budgeting, and keep creating,